Hi, everyone. Welcome back for another episode of Office Hours. I'm Francesco. I'm joined as always by Dennis McDonald, who's our Vice President of Sales here at Yale Appliance. We missed last week, so we've definitely missed all of you, and we have a lot of questions here that have kind of piled up over the last 2 weeks. So we have a really good and informative Office Hours episode for all you here today. How's it going, Dennis?
It's going great, Fran. How you doing? Welcome back. Glad to be back.
Yeah, very good. We're all back to the swing of things here. So like we mentioned, very excited to kind of get back to this. So, we like to kind of start every week with a question that we kind of run into a lot during the week at the stores. And one of these that, we do hear a lot, and, we have such a large store and a large selection. Sometimes we hear from people, it's like, with Yale being so large and such a major appliance retailer, why and how does Yale choose to not carry certain major appliance brands? Can you help to answer some of that?
Yeah, it's a fair question. It's a good question. We do get it a lot. Over the years, service has absolutely become the focus for us as a company. I mean, we're not a short-term play. We're coming up on our 100th year of being in business, and that has been built on great customers and ideally great customer experiences. I mean, it really is everything ultimately to us, because you can buy appliances pretty much anywhere. So service and the customer's after sale experience is what really has allowed us to grow the way we've been able to over the years. So to that end, we really focus on that. As much as we like a brand, if a brand isn't going to do a great job for the customer, and it's going to have potentially more service issues and things like that, then we're going to make those hard choices. It doesn't mean forever. I mean, honestly, this business is cyclical. We've seen some brands that had a really tough run, and we chose to maybe part ways for a while and then really resurge, or maybe a different company bought them and really a new lease on life for them. And at the end of the day, we're product guys. I mean, that's really what we focus on. Good products in customers' homes that we can feel good about. So that's how we pick our brands. It trumps profits. It trumps everything else, really. It's really the baseline to growing a business long term, is that the customers have a good experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And for a dealer like us that is so heavily invested in the service and service after the sale, the support, the installation, all those things, for us, it's critical. And if we don't really look at the whole picture of a brand, a lot of other stores and dealers, they don't deal with any of that back end support part of it. So for them, it's really all about the front end and trying to get good product or whatever, however they make those decisions. For us, it's not only the sale, because after the sale, it's always coming back to us too. So for a brand that doesn't stand behind their product or has a much higher service rate than something else, that doesn't work for us. And that's something, like you said, it doesn't mean it's forever, and things always change, and we're always evaluating those things. So for us, it's really the whole picture that is so critical, and really imperative to make sure that we work with brands and partner with brands that really kind of have the whole picture and it's all full circle for them.
So. Absolutely, that's well said.
All right, so let's start with the first question of the week here. So dishwasher drying systems, there's definitely been a lot of different ones that have come out over the last few years and over the years in general. Why don't dishwashers dry dishes anymore? Another common question we hear.
Yeah. The reality of it is, I would contest that most dishwashers do dry dishes. Mm-hmm. But as consumers, perhaps we haven't been educated to the differences in how they operate, because they are different. And if we treated them the same, then we would probably say they don't dry very well. And what I mean by that is, energy restrictions, both in everything from water usage to just raw electrical energy that these units are allowed to use, has changed over the years. Additionally, European brands like Bosch, Miele, Beko, Fisher-Paykel, there's a lot of brands that have been introduced into the market over the last 15, 20 years in the US market. They operate a little differently. So let's take first the American brand, a KitchenAid, a GE, a brand like that, or the ones that we all maybe grew up with. Those more often than not had a heating element. And what I mean by that is, if you open the door and looked in the bottom of the oven, bottom of the dishwasher, it looked like an oven. It actually has a coil element. Mm-hmm. And that really works like an oven. And as you open that door, and many people do, they try to add that extra fork or that extra spoon. That heating element continued to basically bake the dishes dry. I mean, that's really what it did. It got very, very hot. We know that because plastics would melt a lot of times if they were on that bottom rack in a dishwasher. So the manufacturers have been beholden to the new energy restrictions, even in those units where they can't use quite as much energy in those elements, okay? Second part of that is European dishwashers, brands like Bosch, a popular dishwasher, Miele, a popular dishwasher, Beko, a popular dishwasher. Those brands, they use condensation to dry. So what do I mean? An American dishwasher historically will heat the water as hot as your hot water tank or your home will give it. That's as hot as it's going to get. And then that element, that baking element I kind of talked about, that's what assists in the drying, okay? A European machine works very, very differently. It heats the water closer to 160 degrees. So it's actually boosting your hot water and getting it up to 160 degrees to kill bacteria. And then it shuts off and it uses that trapped hot energy that it's created by that hot water. And it uses that as it's drying. So it's using condensation, basically, no element. So what does that mean? That means if you're the type of person that says, oh, let me add that extra fork, once you release that hot air and energy that it's created and it escapes, there's nothing replacing that. So really, the takeaways and what I tell people when they come in, because they do, and they say, hey, my dishwasher's not drying. Or I love when people say my Bosch dishwasher, my Miele dishwasher doesn't dry. I'll ask them the first question. I say, I'll ask you a question. You got to answer me honestly, and I'm going to help you with it if it's not operating correctly. Do you use rinse aid? And quickly somebody says, yes, but they kind of twist their head a little. I say, oh, you're hedging a little. What do you mean? Well, I do, and maybe she doesn't, or she does, and I don't, or my kids don't, or whatever. Or I use it sometimes. I can't, the bottom line is you need it. It's going to help offset the energy restrictions that the machines have been put on. Think about it like this. It's like wax on a car. It helps sheet the water off the glassware and the pots and pans, right? So if we do a couple of things, if we leave the machine door closed, let it run. Folks, these machines are using 3 gallons of water. They're using very, very, very little water. A quarter of the water, not even less than probably 1/10 of the water that they used to use 20 years ago. So it's not about, hey, I have to stick that fork in there. Let it do its thing, keep the door closed, and put a rinse aid in there consistently. Always make sure there's rinse aid. And that's squirting it in most cases and letting it just fill up, and then the machine will identify, or some people use the gel packs that have a rinse aid put in it, or a detergent that has a rinse aid put in. But either way, make sure you have that rinse aid, leave the door closed, let it do its thing. It dries. The only other thing I'll tell you is Americans are super impatient and the machines are quiet. So as they've gotten quieter, most of them give some type of indicator light to let you know, hey, I'm still running, because effectively they're silent in their drying modes. So look for that light. Don't open the door. Wait till it beeps when it's done. And finally, the last thing is, because Americans are impatient, a lot of times they want to use the quick wash or a shortened cycle, or a light wash. Understand, dishwashers used to wash in about 50 minutes. Now they're taking closer to 2 hours many times in a normal cycle. And we want to get back in there because we just move fast. And if you're doing that by putting it on a light cycle or a quick wash, in 90% of the 95% of the machines out there, that is eliminating the dry factor at all. It's basically washing it with no dry cycle. So again, those could be some of the reasons why you make that comment and say it doesn't dry. You're either not using it right, or you're trying to use these shortened cycles, which have eliminated the drying, and there you go.
Absolutely. And, it's a lot of great information. And one of the things, we always talk about is, especially in our stores, it's setting the right expectation. I've probably mentioned this 50 times during our episodes here too. And it's, someone comes in and they haven't replaced the dishwasher in 10 years. Those are all things that, you could go through all the features and benefits of these dishwashers and never know those things. So that's why it's so critical for the education part of it. These dishwashers are so different than they were 10 years. I mean, heck, all the appliances are really so different than they were 10 years ago. The dishwashers especially, and, you're looking at there's so many pros to it and the benefits of it, but you got to have that educational part of it, because someone, they bring it home, they expect it to be, 45 minutes, it's done, it's dry, it's completely, now they're looking at a couple hours, and there's definitely some tips and tricks to it. So absolutely, they're so much more energy efficient today. They're so many more bells and whistles and things like that, but you definitely got to make sure that you're educated as a consumer.
And Fran, we know, and I'll ask you, when's the last time you truly read an owner's manual front to back? You don't.
Right.
We live in an online world, and we trust the person maybe that says it. Maybe it's us they're listening to. But they need to make sure when they get sold this, a lot of times, depending on where you're at and where you buy it from, are you actually asking questions? Hopefully the salesperson's pointing this stuff out. I mean, it's basic. Every store should do it. I hope yours does, and you'll get better use out of it. If not, read that manual. It's there for a reason. It'll tell you.
Listen, it might not be, the most exciting reading in the world, but definitely a lot of great information in there for sure.
Yeah,
so.
for sure.
All right, moving on to the next one. So speed ovens, another, really popular product category here. Speed ovens versus microwave. Why is a speed oven better than a microwave?
Yeah, this is a great question. Speed ovens have really taken over a large part. So most people doing it in a microwave, either they're doing it above their stove, or if they're doing it built in to a wall, most people can't fit two ovens. Some people can, but a lot of people can't, or feel like they don't need two ovens, but they need a microwave. But at times they need a second oven, or at least something that'll cook better than a microwave. So that's like a lot of folks. They don't have a massive kitchen to do everything, or a budget maybe. So the speed oven really, when you think about a microwave, it's just glorified microwave heat. And we know that it doesn't cook well, right? It reheats okay. It doesn't really brown. Some of the convection microwaves do a bit better. There are some technologies out there, GE Advantium. There's a few things, but speed ovens, really think of them as the word oven. Baking element, broiling element, convection fan in the rear of it, and microwave. So what does that mean? That means you can, in the same space it would have taken to put in a built-in microwave, you could reheat food, pop popcorn, steam vegetables, something that you do with a normal microwave. You could also bake, broil, roast, truly set it to 450 degrees and use it just like an oven. And when it does, is it uses those three types of cooking modes, depending on the mode you pick. It's not hard. You're going to treat it like an oven. But again, it uses microwave as an assist. So some manufacturers will say that it uses 90% of the baking, normal bake and broil element, or the convection element like you'd normally use on a regular oven. And then it uses the assist, the microwave power, to assist about 10 to 15% of that power to just speed it up. And it really will cut, it can cut cooking times 40%. 50%, very fast almost zero preheat time, like no preheat time, actually, just right to power. So there's a lot of benefits. And really, when you think about this speed, when we think about a microwave, we think about certain things we use. When you think about a speed oven, people that use them and get educated from the right appliance store and know how to use them, and it's not hard, they really come back and tell us that they use that on a Monday through Friday for their family, for their kids, for the children, for themselves, then they would heat up the whole oven. Because again, we're fast. We're Americans. We want it on now. We got to get the kids to soccer practice. I need chicken nuggets and fries. I need, and this gives you the ability to do all those types of things.
Yeah, really all about the flexibility there with that compared to a microwave. I mean, it's really night and day with what you can do with the speed oven and the flexibility it gives you in the feature package. And like you said, too, in the design of the whole kitchen, it really gives you flexibility in that design and the feature. So yeah, definitely a great product. And we've seen it. Tremendous growth over the last few years for speed ovens, for sure.
Yep.
Now, with that growth, I just want to mention: has there been any, appliance availability, perhaps issues?
Yeah, I mean, the speed oven is super popular. Truth be told, a lot of them are made overseas. A lot of the components, I should say, they may be assembled here, but the components are coming from overseas. So we have definitely seen long lead times on speed ovens. Popular category, but I will tell you, it's not without pain right now. So if it's something that you want in your project, truth be told, you got to get in there quick. These are running 10 months to a year in many cases to get it. There are certain brands, LG Studio, LG SKS, Fisher Paykel. There are a few brands out there that actually have much better availability than others, but it's a painful product category right now, temporarily, but a great product category for your design if you can make it happen.
Absolutely. All right, so next question is, so refrigerator installation, is space needed between a fridge and a wall when placing the refrigerator in a corner?
Yes. So a lot of times what that looks like, if you think about it, folks, is there's a knee wall or there's a wall that comes partially out, and you're going to tuck that refrigerator in that corner on the left or right side, depending on the layout. So the industry standard when we were designing kitchens years ago was, a 3-inch filler would suffice to allow that door to swing to 90 inches, 90 degrees rather, so that you get your crisper bins out, your deli draws and things like that. One, to get them out, and more importantly, to get them out to clean them. That was always the next point. Now, as you look at refrigerators, what's happening? We're able to put more product on the door of the refrigerator, right? You're seeing them get much deeper. The physical door is deeper as well. A lot of these have these door-in doors. So you might see some brands like LG, some of the Samsung that are out there, that literally the door, if you look at it, it is twice as thick as it's ever been. So if someone were doing that today, I would always tell you to try not to put it in the corner, but hey, listen, we all don't, again, have we have restrictions. I would say 6 inches, really, because these doors are almost 5 inches, and then the profile of the handle, and you want to be able to get it up to get those crisper bins out. When in doubt, get to your appliance store, see it, and hopefully they have some live applications so you can test them, so you can show, really play. Your cabinet person should be around 6 inches though.
Yep, absolutely. All right, thank you. Let's go to the next one. So kitchen sink. So I'm designing a kitchen and don't know how big my sink should be. What size cabinet should I initially be planning for?
Yeah, great question. So really, I think honestly, this question should be thought about by homeowners before they even think about appliances, as crazy as that is. And we talk about appliances. We also sell a lot of sinks, but why do I say that? Because the sink, if you think about it, is many times the heart of your kitchen run, your cabinet run. So it's kind of in the middle. Everything kind of plays off the left and right to it. A lot of times, if you think about your home, you might have windows and a backyard or looking off to a deck or something behind it. But generally, it's in the middle of cabinet runs. So really important to start there, because if you start with your wish list of all the amazing appliances you want to buy and don't tackle this sink until the very end, sinks are something you have to have, and they either make it function well, your kitchen well, or not function at all if you can't fit what you need to fit in there. So the trend 20 years ago was a double bowl sink, if you could fit it. And then more recently, absolutely the trend is larger single bowl sinks, because you can fit and pile a lot in there. A roasting pan from Thanksgiving fits in there and can soak in the sink, not on top of your counter or on top of your stove. So we would say a 36-inch sink base is a good size starting point. And if you pick 36-inch, you can fit 95% of every single bowl sink, as big as they are, that exist on the market today. So if you're thinking that, if you're thinking more like a double bowl sink, I'm going to ask a lot of questions about how you plan to use it, because the double bowl sinks generally, then I would tell you to start looking more towards like a 39 or a 42-inch sink base. Sink bases go in 3-inch increments unless you're having truly a custom one made by somebody. But 24, 27, 30, 33, that type of thing. But I a lot of times say start with 36. It gives you a lot of options. Then when you go looking at your sinks, if you find it smaller, then you're shrinking it down, and you're maybe getting a few more functional cabinets to the left and right of it. But start there, and it's a good way to go.
Definitely. Like you said, absolutely. You want to start thinking about sinks early on with your whole kitchen design, because we always say to people too, long term, ultimately you don't want to have to replace anything, and you want to love everything you choose, but it's much easier to replace a refrigerator or something like that. You're not happy with the size of your sink. Once that's in, very difficult to replace the sink. You're talking about ripping up countertops, everything. Very, very difficult. So really critical, something to think about early, and not just, make that an afterthought at the end of the kitchen planning, for sure.
Hey, Fran, do you want to go to a question? I see Mike D has a question out there.
Absolutely.
So Mike has a question I can see come up. It says, has there been any indication of supply chain issues even easing up going into the rest of 2022? Worried as we ordered back in November of last year, Wolf Sub-Zero meal, a dishwasher. Mike, gosh, I wish I had great news. I think 2022 will be worse than 2021, particularly in a lot of the premium spaces. We have certain brands going through product transition and just a lot of component issues. So, I can take them as they come, take Miele dishwashers. For 99% of the dealers in the country, you can't even order a Miele dishwasher right now. Won't even allow you to receive an order on their portal. So that tells you how bad they are. They've stopped taking U.S. orders. They're running, if they could take one, they're running close to a year. Now, we still have a tremendous amount of Miele dishwasher back orders, but we saw this coming and we ordered 3 times the volume of Miele dishwashers that we've ever sold in a given year a year ago. So we actually will have Miele dishwashers this year when most dealers won't. And that's not a plug for us. I don't know if you bought this from us, Mike, or if you bought it somewhere else. But I will tell you that we do really we do think we'll get some relief, and we have some coming in, but it's a while. A Sub-Zero right now in most cases is taking 11 months to 14 months. They've also been through a rolling transition of some new models most recently, and some factory back issues in terms of components coming in from suppliers. Same with Wolf. So, it's not perfect. It's not going to be any easier. I don't think we'll get normal in an industry until 2024, if you want my honest opinion. Back half of 23 going into 2024. And I say that, and we're carrying $30 million worth of appliance inventory every day. But when I say that, it's very inefficient, because we might have someone's cooktop in their microwave and we're waiting for their refrigerator. So, those people can't take deliveries, or maybe their projects are delayed because their building materials are pushed back. It's just not an efficient thing right now. I wish I had a better answer. Yeah, I don't have a great one, but I got to answer it honestly. That's where it's at.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, that's just kind of the truth in today's environment. So, we all want to get back to what it was a few years ago, but, hopefully we'll get there at some point. But unfortunately, that's just kind of where we are today. So.
Yeah. What else do we have?
So here's a good one too. Under counter beverage units. You see such a wide spread of price points with beverage units. So why are the price points between them? Why do they vary so much?
Yeah, that's a great question. We get this a lot. And you know why we get this a lot? Because the units we sell tend to be more expensive. Where this comes from is Home Depot, Lowe's. A box store, Best Buy. Mm-hmm. You've been in the stores. You've seen them as you stand in the aisle. Wow, there's a beverage cooler. I think I saw one for $5.99 the other day, or $7.99. Well, two things. In COVID, you're not seeing those as much anymore. In COVID, you're not seeing it as much anymore, just simply because of the fact that it's hard to get those things, and most of them are come from overseas. But the ones that you're seeing, they're a lot less expensive. They don't breathe from the front. Okay, so what I mean is the toe kick of the units, the one that are more expensive, are truly made to have cabinets surround them and be built in. The ones you're finding online or less expensive, 9 times out of 10, there's some major things to look at. Do they breathe from the front of the unit? Most of them don't. They breathe from the rear. They're made to be freestanding, almost like a dorm fridge in someone's living room. So if you build around them, they're going to put a lot of heat into this enclosure, and they're going to overheat and die in a year and a half. So that's the reason for the price. The second thing to look at for the least expensive ones is the temperature. Many times these things can't even get colder than 37 degrees. Or maybe they get, and if you've ever had a cold soda, or maybe a beer or something, whatever you're going to use this beverage unit for, no one wants it warm. Okay. The other thing is the compressors they use on the less expensive units just aren't powerful. They're inexpensive for a reason, right? So when we think about these units, people that do beverage units are one of two people. Either they want the glitz and the glamour of, wow, it looks pretty in the kitchen. Okay. But if you intend to use it, a lot of times they get used when you have a lot of people over and you actually need it to keep things cold. And those compressors, if they're weak and don't get to a cold enough temperature to begin with, or have enough variance in temperature, you'll get a cold maybe first beverage, but as people are in and out of it, you're going to realize real quick, wow, everything's really warm. And that's the complaints we see. The final thing I'll tell you is many times people find these things online, okay? And they're like, I can't pass up the price. I can't spend the money for the beverage unit. It's at the end of my project appliance list, and I need to get one unit. I got to cut somewhere. Look at the dimensions. They have to be standard dimensions, because I'm going to tell you, you're going to put it in. It's going to die like I told you it would. And then you're going to have, they many times do not have standard sizes. So you've customized your cabinets, and the cabinet person maybe didn't pick it up or didn't say anything because that's what you wanted. And at the end of the day, you have this unique hole that can only be fit by that unique thing you bought that, oh, by the way, died in a year and a half. And now you have this brand new kitchen. So 15 inches and 24 inches are the industry standard sizes by roughly 33 and a half or 34 inches in height. With leveling legs, you can go up and down a few, but the point is 15 and 24, make sure they breathe from the front. But this is one of those things, folks, you're planning a space, and now you agree most of these beverage units are visible. You're going to see them. They're pretty. They have glass doors, lights. You need them to actually work. You want to make sure you spend the right amount of money there.
Right. Absolutely. No one wants a warm beer or soda. So definitely want to make sure you're getting the right product, right temperature range. All those things are critical with any refrigeration, especially with under counter, where there is so many different kinds of brands out there that you've never heard of before too. So I think we have time for one more question here. So a combi-steam oven. So, a combination steam, convection steam oven. What's the difference between plumbed and a reservoir unit? And what are the advantages to either one?
So, these combi steam ovens, a plumbed unit for folks, it's what that just basically means is a hard copper line or a hard PEX flex line of water truly has to be run to the unit, okay, or teed off from another pipe to the unit. But you actually have to have a plumber do that and get that all. So there could be limitations to that. What's the cost to get a plumber in? It may be limiting in terms of where you can put it in your kitchen because, you got to get the water line there and everything involved. The reservoir units really do the same thing, but think about it as filling up a Keurig, right? So you're filling up a water reservoir, and most of them will cook for about an hour and a half, 2 hours worth of cooking time. Then they'll beep and they might need to be refilled, but not an issue. So I don't think there's any problem there. If you were to ask us, we would generally always say, listen, the reservoir units might be slightly less expensive. They give full flexibility on where we can put it in the kitchen. They're easy to service because they just slide out if they need it to be. Just everything about them's easy. So we like plumb units. I mean, that would be our recommendation. We sell. We like the reservoir that you actually fill it over the plumbed units. The plumbed units are a little more work, and you're kind of locked into a space and maybe some limitations. So I like the reservoir if you were going to ask me.
Yeah, definitely some small, definitely a little convenience with the plumb version, but long term and everything from installation to replacement to maintenance and all those things, definitely for the reservoir unit can be much easier for sure.
For sure.
All right, so I think that's going to wrap it up for today's questions. Thank you as always, Dennis. A lot of great information there. Thank you all for joining us again this week. We'll be back for sure next week, next Thursday, 4:00 for another episode of Office Hours. I'm Francesco. Thanks again, Dennis, for being here again this week. So,
yeah, no, thank you. And I know Mike, I'm watching him up there in the corner. He had a couple follow-ups. We will follow up with Mike offline. But it was good questions today. We appreciate it. It's good to be back. And hey, we're gonna get through this, man. This is fun. COVID, Mike, we'll figure out your kitchen. I don't know if you bought it from us, but either way, we'll see if we can help you one way or the other.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Fran.
Thanks, everyone. See you next week.
Bye-bye.